A partial shutdown of the federal government stretched into a second day on Sunday, after the Senate failed to pass a short-term funding bill. The blame game boiled over on Saturday, with lawmakers in both parties fighting hard for an edge in the shutdown. Neither side showed any signs of backing down when the Senate adjourned Saturday evening without a deal in sight. Bookmark this link for the latest developments. McConnell opposes nuclear option. 10 a.m., Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell, RK, opposes implementing the nuclear option in the Senate in order to pass a funding bill. The Republican conference opposes changing the rules on legislation, a spokesman told media outlets. President Trump proposed the rule change in a tweet earlier on Sunday. The nuclear option would only require 51 votes to pass legislation. Durbin. Doing away with the filibuster would be the end of the Senate. 9:54 a.m., Senator Dick Durbin, DL, on Sunday dismissed the notion of doing away with the filibuster amid negotiations to end the government shutdown, saying it would be the end to the Senate as it is currently known. That would be the end of the Senate as it was originally devised and created going back to our founding fathers. We have to acknowledge our respect for the minority, and that is what the Senate tries to do in its composition and procedure, Durbin told ABC's George Stephanopoulos on This Week. Let's get this done on a bipartisan basis. We've produced a bipartisan approach to many of these issues. If the President and the leaders in Congress will sit down with us, we can resolve this quickly. President Trump in a tweet earlier Sunday urged Senate Republicans to enact the so-called nuclear option if the government shutdown drags on and pass a long-term budget with 51 votes. Key aides, Trump open to a DACA solution. 9:33 a.m., two top aides said on Sunday that President Trump is open to a legislative fix for recipients of the Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals, DACA, program as the government enters its second day of the shutdown. Keep in mind, these are people age 16-36 with work permits, which means they do not have any criminal background. They're here being productive to our country, Legislative Director Mark Short told ABC's George Stephanopoulos on This Week. I think you've seen the White House show openness to expand that population, while Democrats have said there are other people who should be a part of the DACA population because they were either afraid or didn't apply to the program. We've shown a willingness to consider that. So we feel like we're making progress on multiple areas. White House Budget Chief Mick Mulvaney, meantime, said on CNN's State of the Union that Trump is absolutely interested and wants to get DACA fixed. The Obama-era program, which shields immigrants brought to the U.S. illegally as children from deportation, has been at the center of negotiations over a short-term spending bill between lawmakers, as Democrats push for protections for the so-called Dreamers. Budget chief says shutdown could last more than a week. 9:20 a.m., I think Democrats want to see the president give the State of the Union under a shutdown, Office of Management and Budget Director Mick Mulvaney said on Fox News Sunday, warning the shutdown could last more than a week. Trump's first State of the Union is scheduled for January 30th. Armed Forces Network restored amid shutdown. 9 a.m., White House Press Secretary Sarah Sanders said Sunday morning that the Armed Forces Network, AFN, has been restored in most places amid the government shutdown, allowing deployed U.S. service members to watch the NFL Conference Championships later in the day. Glad our brave men and women can watch the game today, she tweeted. Trump, Senate Republicans should go nuclear if stalemate continues. 9 a.m., President on Sunday called for Senate Republicans to trigger the so-called nuclear option if the government shutdown continues and pass a long-term budget with 51 votes. Great to see how hard Republicans are fighting for our military and safety at the border. The Dems just want illegal immigrants to pour into our nation unchecked, Trump tweeted. If stalemate continues, Republicans should go to 51%, nuclear option, and vote on real, long-term budget, no CRs. He added, referring to a stopgap spending measure known as a continuing resolution. Senate session to resume Sunday afternoon, 9 a.m. The Senate is expected to resume negotiations on legislation to fund the government starting at 1 p.m. Sunday. No votes are currently scheduled for the Sunday session. Unless senators get an agreement, Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell, RK, is warning he will force a procedural vote at 1 a.m. on Monday. Day 2 of the government shutdown comes as there is no sign of an agreement that could win over enough support to overcome the Senate's 60-vote threshold. Though senators were spotted bouncing between McConnell and Senate Minority Leader Charles Schumer's DN.Y office, the two Senate leaders haven't spoken on Saturday. According to an aide, Schumer has also not spoken to President Trump. The House next meets at 2 p.m.